welcome you go to this tutorial about how to using the build web server and the web application using the ReactJS framework. Yeah, in recently we have a lot of framework, for example, ReactJS, AngularJS, Vue.js, and a lot of things. So, for example, in the AI application, sometimes you need to build the API, or you need to build a visualization UI for show the data, or for a customer to testing the new service of AI project. So in this time we use the React.js to build this web easily. you know and let's go and let's get started to this tutorial. In the first I will show you about how to uh, program with HTML, CSS, and JS. And after that, I will go through. I will go deep dive into the React.js. And in the first, to create HTML, we just to create HTML, and we use the GoLive server to reload the HTML. Yes, after we refresh, we can see the title in the document. And for example, we change to the first guide. As you can see, it's update to the first. And for example, in there we create a heading 1, and as you can see, heading 1 is this guy. And in the first video, I will show you about some of the common element in HTML. In HTML, we have a lot of elements. For example, the heading. For example, we have the heading. We have a heading. In the heading we have to H1 to A6 heading, and we have the paragraph. We use to put that to HTML document. And we have the image. We have the anchor. We use anchor to offset or to place one element in a position in HTML page. And we have an order list, the order, and we have list item. We have a table. We have the button. We have a div. In HTML, we usually to use the div. Div means divide. We use the divide tab to we use this tab for create to divide the web page to a lot of part. And so we have a lot of elements in the HTML. So after that, I will show you about to the we will take care about the priority in the HTML. about the internal and the external, about how to use inline. In inline we have the one. This is about the weight of the inline and the ID, the class and the type name, and the universal. We have a universal selector and inherited. You know, yes. This is the tutorial we just to show you about today. And in the first example, we create something. We create a priority reload, and we copy. So we copy something. Create an inline, we create an ID and the class and the universal and rigid. And the inline we have the 1000 point, and the ID we have 100 point, and the class have a 10 point, and in there we have a 0 point. The point is show for the weight of the priority of element based on the way you use the HTML element. For example, in there we have we create a style with the color red, and it's either after that you can see we have the red color in there. And for example in the CSS, now we create a CSS file. We call the main.css, and in the main CSS in there we just to import from the static, and in there we just to create a link, and we link to the main.css. And in the CSS we, for example, we create the tag name is color, for example, hour. But when I command, when I disable, as you can see, the priority is brighter for the hour color in the main CSS in the external file. But with inline we have a higher priority. So as you can see, we have the red color in there. So the inline is the very very important way. But in there, for example, we have the important. So the important is the most highest way for effect the CSS to the application, So in there, the inline priority higher than the external, where the external, internal, and inline. And inline is very important thing. For example, in the we can create the style in there in the internal file in there. For example, in there, we create a style and we create a age 11. For example, in there we create a color to the black. No, create the orange. Yes, as you can see, we can create an internal in there. But as you can see, when you create the internal in there, so the priority in inline is very weighted, so you cannot to change in there. Yes, okay. So yes, it is the priority of the file in the HTML and how to use in the external for create how to use in the external and the internal and inline for HTML. And after that, I will show you about how to use in the ID and uh, class. And for example, we have a lot of A2. So how to point to different element with the same name in there. So in this case, we just use the ID and class. For example, in there we have the for example, in the name we create a heading. We have a heading. To that one, and we create a class is for example. And in the class we can create for example in there we create the class, for example class second heading in there. As you can see in the external file we can point to this element by using the ID. First we using the ID and point to the second heading element. Yeah, and now you can change sum up the, the attribute of thing. Yes. So in ID we just do using this symbol and using dot for class to separate a lot of component in the same name in the HTML, you know. And we can point to create component in the HTML element, and after that I will show you about how to using the variable in the HTML. For example, in there we're using the simulate root to create a global variable. In there we create the text color variable, and we create a green in there. And as you can see, in the root we use the text color. For example, in this line, using the ID is second, and we create a class name is inline, you know. And in there we point to the A2 second, and the class is inline, and after that we can create a color, and in there we assign the text color using variable, and we pass to there. As you can see, this variable is applied to the variable in there. Just this is the first tutorial for you about how to using the HTML and CSS in external, internal, and in the inline type, you know, and how to use the JavaScript in there. So to use the JavaScript, we just to create a script name in there, and we create a script of we created the script tag in there, and you know, in this place we just do main.js, and we create a main.js in here. For example, we create a console log in there, and in there we apply the main.js in here. So we change in there, we have in the console log we can see the console log is print the text in here. So in the application in the React native ReactJS, we have the JavaScript, and JavaScript we can import to the HTML, or we can import in the HTML or the CDN to get the script from the server side, or the CDN link, or the internal source. Yes, we have a lot of way. Okay, in this tutorial we learned some basic knowledge about the HTML, CSS, and how to use in the JavaScript in HTML file. Thank you for watching this tutorial.